Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a very special episode of Respecting the Beer as we continue our conversation with the Yuengling sisters of, yes, that Yuengling Brewery. This week, they're going to share a few more stories at the brewery and their plans for the 200th anniversary of the brewery. Enjoy.
It just becomes a part of you, and to be able to play a bigger role in something like that is unbelievable.
If we can play off of that really quick, I grew up in a family business. My dad and his two brothers owned an air compressor business here in town, and shout out to Appleton Compressor. But when me and my brother were in our high school ages, they made us work at the shop. They made us, like, that wasn't a choice. We just had to. But we were cleaning up. They gave us like the worst job. So we're cleaning up like vacuum pumps from cheese packaging companies and like, the meat packing stuff. So it's just like I have horrific memories of working for my family and of all like the crazy stuff. Also forklift races in the parking lot. But what was there had to have been a moment where you're like, oh man, are they really going to make me do this? Did they like send you in to clean the kegs or the cellars or anything, or like year-old kegs?
We never had anything that horrific. For me though, my first job was a tour guide and giving tours, and that was not fun at all for me. And being very introverted, not enjoying public speaking, and as an 18-year-old, I was like, what am I doing here? So I you don't realize it at the time, but I think that was a great grooming lesson for me. And, years later, when you start to go through talking points and you learn how to speak to the media, it's like that was really a first stepping stone for me that I didn't realize it at the time, but a great first lesson to kind of initiate me into the family business.
I'm taking notes right now because I'm like, as soon as mine turns 8 or 9, like, let's get you on the tour.
Oh, she's not gonna have any trouble grabbing the mic.
Oh,
she's all about it.
It's great.
This just spurred a memory I had listening to the August Shell interview. They said their worst job was they were in charge of taking the bottles that were to be recycled, and they were like my kids' age, 7 years old, and throwing these into a bin to shatter them to compact their volume. Can you imagine like how many child labor and OSHA issues?
Yeah.
It's free labor. That's why you make children, is so that you can build up your workforce. That's what my dad always said. That's why we're here.
No, it's so that they can get, access to intangible skills. That's what we're doing.
There it
That's
is.
what we're building.
Character building.
I remember one of my first jobs when we, in fact, did have returnables as well. We used to have these cartons that, just said premium beer, but we also made a premium light. And I remember going down on a Saturday when my dad was loading trucks, and he just gave me a stack of light cards, and I just had to tuck them in the corner of every case so that we knew that they were premium light versus premium. And it was fun for like the first 10 minutes. And then after an hour, I'm like,
10,000 cases later.
Less than an hour.
And I don't think I got paid, but it was good experience.
Yeah, your fingers start to hurt from pushing the cardboard into the case. And our dad is always quick to remind us, we worked over college years and then came back into the business when we were in our 20s. He's quick to remind us that he's been working in the beer business since he was 15 years old. And there's no slacking. He might be one of the hardest workers
I'm sure he would have stories. I'm sure he's told them to you. So I wrote a note down when you were kind of going over your history. What you said you in 1980 that you got behind this the lager that's really catapulted you guys? Did I hear that right?
That was 1987.
Okay, so I was wondering. I thought maybe this went back to 1920. I didn't realize there was more to the story.
The lager is recent?
Yeah, no, I'm wondering what was your beer before that beer? What was your flagship before that?
So we have some what we refer to as heritage brands. We have a Lord Chesterfield ale, which is, in my kind of interpretation, it's an American style ale. We have a dark brewed porter. Those go back to probably the 1800s. And then returnable bottles, which we just referenced, they were our flagship. It's called Premium Beer. Premium was our flagship brand, and it was really a local brand. It sold throughout the surrounding counties. And, part of the reason why the founder, D.G. Yuengling, landed where he did in Pottsville, it was a growing anthracite coal region. And there were lots of thirsty miners in those days. And, premium beer was really our flagship. That was, a very simple Pilsner style beer, a little bit of sweetness to it, but a very good
Ancestry.com moment. Where did your family come from? Did I miss that note? Because it sounds like you're talking about a lot of English influence as well as German and all of it, and Czech.
He came from Germany. He came from Württemberg, Germany.
Yep.
Got it. And somewhere along the way, ale became a beer that was brewed by you guys.
We made porters and ales, and even before lager was resurrected in 1987, we have old labels of when we had lager brands back in the 50s and 60s. We made cream ales. We've made so many different styles over the years. And fortunately, our German heritage is such that we don't throw anything out.
Yeah.
But we have boxes of old labels of brands that we've made over the years that, it's been fun. Jen mentioned our Eagle series, but these are small batch brands that we sell on site at our Pottsville gift shop and our Tampa restaurant, the Yuengling Draft House and Kitchen. And so we've been able to resurrect some of those and find inspiration in those old labels that we have.
You guys have some
around.
OG credit as a street cred now for having been a craft brewer before it was cool. Because it sounds like you're doing what we do now back then. That's really cool to hear. All these influences.
We've been doing it all along, and I think we just never really got caught up in, what you call it. But, there's pictures of DG and his two sons who worked in the business in the 1800s, and the barrels in front of them, they'll say fine porters, lagers, and ales. So we've been making brands like that since the beginning.
Damn the label, right? Just do what makes you happy.
Well, now you're here in Wisconsin, and a small rollout starting in January. It was just on tap. And then now, just recently, 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
Last week. Holy cow. It seems like now you've always been here because I drove down. We're the breweries off of College Avenue are downtown, and I drove from the other side, and I saw so many neon signs for Yuengling in the bar windows and all of the ads. So now it just feels like y'all been there.
And I have some friends who are actually sitting in our beer garden currently. They went to graduate school in Pennsylvania, and I ran down because I got the times wrong, and I was like, guess what? We're interviewing Yuengling upstairs, and their eyes got huge. They're like, oh my God. So I think everyone,
we have some Bostonians and Philadelphia natives around here.
So excited.
We here in Wisconsin, we have had the opportunity of having a beer mecca where people would be beer mules to grab our certain brands you could only get in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You guys have heard of New Glarus, I'm sure.
Spotted Cow.
Yeah.
And everyone if you when you go
and
and visit your family.
I hear.
And McFleshman's as well.
Let's just throw a plug in.
Yeah, free plug for your own podcast.
We'd love to get there sometime. Where is it?
In Appleton.
We're essentially in Green Bay, but just a little south.
Yeah, there's
Okay, I haven't spent time in that market yet, but we'll try and swing by.
You know how to reach us.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is Yuengling has also had that moniker of being the beer that I knew a guy a couple months ago that went to Ohio for work, and I told him he's not allowed to come back unless he brings me a case of Yuengling. You're kind of that beer for us here in Wisconsin, and now you're here. So what's next then?
Well, Wisconsin's been a great launch for us. So Jen and I were out there shortly after we launched Draft and got to spend some time in some accounts. And then with package launch last week, things are going really well. We have almost 3,000 draft lines in the state for our lager brand at this point. And I think we have just about 500 for our Flight brand, which is our low calorie, low carb option light beer. So yeah, it's been great. We're also getting ready to launch package now in the state of Iowa. So that's going to keep us busy. And, we try and be very methodical in expansion. So we're not necessarily caught up in what market is next. Jen and I have often said, we don't necessarily have aspirations to be in all 50 states in our generation, but we want to make sure that our brands are doing well in the markets that we're currently in. So like I said earlier, this is our 30th state now that we're selling Yuengling, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, and back to your comments about Miller, that it's critical, right? Your relationship with Miller Coors at this point, and I'm glad to hear that's going so well.
It is going well. We've established good relationships with the Molson Coors folks, both within the Fort Worth brewery and then also in the Milwaukee brewery. And our director of quality, he's typically in either one or both of those breweries probably every quarter, touching base with the quality managers, brewing managers, and anytime they're running production, we have samples shipped into us in both Pennsylvania and Tampa, and we have our sensory panel sitting on all of those. So yeah, we're really ensuring quality every step of the way.
We're a tiny brewery. We do distribution in 28 counties. I know how much sleep
28 counties. That's just in the state.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, though, I know how
One
much sleep we lose. I cannot imagine what you guys are doing on the scale you're doing it. You must have a really great team, a great network of distributors to pull this off. This is unreal.
We do. Yeah, we've got good folks in the market and good, the dozen or so wholesalers in the state of Wisconsin. They've been enthusiastic about our brands. I've seen some of the pictures on social media over the last week or so of just lines of people waiting to get into the off-premise stores when they open with our brand last week.
This made me think of a question. So kind of a random question, but I promise it has a tie to this. So you're both Yuenglings, which is exciting. And I'm a Fleshman of McFleshman's. Actually, I'm the McCoy Fleshman, where our name comes from. But I am also the one who, like during our huge Mile of Music festival, will be the one fixing the toilet, because that's just what it means to own the company, is that you are there to do the high level stuff, but also the lowest tier stuff. So is there something in either of your jobs along the way that you never thought you would be in charge of? You mentioned wearing a lot of hats, but you're like, wow, I found myself doing this. Not necessarily cleaning a toilet, but you know what? We've all been there.
Oh, yeah, we've been there. I mean, cleaning up after we do a race in Pottsville every year. It's called the Light Lager Jogger. And, you get runners that come through the facility, and we've had to clean up after people. And yeah, we pretty much will do anything. I don't even know what the most random thing I've had to do. And if you don't know how to do it, you just Google it and figure it out.
Cool.
I feel like that's been so much of the learning, is like you're just figuring it out as you go. And so that's been challenging, but it's also been really fun.
So,
yeah, I think part of my path when I started in the operations side and did not have a brewing background is I would come in, I would work all of the jobs, not to the point where I knew all of them by heart, but, anything from running the can filler or running the label or cleaning a tank. I mean, this was 25 plus years ago, but something that I never thought I would be putting a pair of boots on and safety goggles and getting in a tank. But, it helps you appreciate what our workforce does every day and have a better understanding of the challenges they have when
1,000%. That's actually one of the strategies we have with our beer tenders in our tap room, is we want to get them in the back of house just so they can see at least shadow one brew day and or be on the canning line when we have it the once a week canning line.
Because we're so hospitality heavy, it goes the other way. Get the guys in the back and the gals in the back to run a shift behind the bar.
And everyone cleans the toilets.
Yeah.
Well, now you're approaching on the 200th anniversary of the brewery. I know that we're a couple of years away, 3 years away from it, but 200 years for anything in this country is like you're basically the country at this point.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do you anticipate doing to celebrate 200 years?
We talk about this, and we had about 2 summers ago, we had a really fun concert in downtown Pottsville. We had Lee Bryce, country music singer, was a brand ambassador of ours, and it was just a great show. It was right before the 4th of July. And now Wendy and myself and our sisters, Debbie and Cheryl, are like, how are we going to top this? Like, we got to figure something out here in the next couple of years.
We've kicked around a lot of ideas. When you think about when the company celebrated our 100th anniversary, which is a milestone, that was in the midst of Prohibition. So we weren't even drinking beer. So we've got to come up with something big. We've kicked around some really cool ideas. And, we've actually played a pretty big role in celebrating America's 250th this summer. So we do a Stars and Stripes program with our lager brand, and we've got the logo for America's 250th on our can. And so it's been really nice to tie in with that anniversary, and it's given us some good ideas of what we can do in a few years for our 200th.
That's going to be exciting.
So Allison slid a note to me. We always ask people's favorite beers. I felt like you may or may not want to play favorites, but would you be able to name your Mount Rushmore, your top 4, if it's not your own, or if it is?
It's funny. We get that
Do ya?
question a lot. And I have a super hard time answering it because for me, it's all about the occasion. Wendy mentioned our Flight by Yuengling, which is our upscale light beer, low carb, low cal. And we launched that during COVID in 2020. And that has become my go-to for just everyday sessionable. All our brands are sessionable, but just everyday kind of pool, beach type beer. But if I want a hoppy style beer, but I'm not up for an IPA, I go to our Lord Chesterfield Ale, which is our American style pale ale. If I want something dark, we've got our dark brewed porter, and then we also have our black and tan, which is doing well in specific markets. So I'm not answering the question very well.
I'm just excited because now we can get it in Wisconsin, so I can try all of it.
Yeah, it's all about the occasion.
I'm also planning a trip to your tap rooms. I guess you have multiple of them, or do you just have the one in Florida? Yeah.
So we have the restaurant in Florida, the Yuengling Draft House and Kitchen, which we're just starting to do tours in later this month. So that's a destination for people. And then if you're ever in Pottsville, please let us know because we do free tours of America's oldest brewery. And then we have a museum area and a gift shop, but we don't have a restaurant or a tasting room per se in Pottsville, but after the tours, everybody, gets to sample some of our beers and you can stay and buy some, but we don't have a restaurant in Pottsville.
I'm very intrigued by the ale side of your brand. So I can't get past that. I just thinking that you had a couple of lagers and that was it. But now I get the reason people say that this is one of the oldest craft breweries, if not the.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate that we've had, so many brands throughout the years that have withstood the test of time. And our consumer, you mentioned earlier about shipping or transferring beer when somebody goes into Ohio and taking it back to another state. We kind of refer to them jokingly as beer smugglers. Yeah. And we've got such a cult following, not just for specific brands, but for our company as a whole. And it's just really the fans and the consumers who are so passionate about our brands is very inspiring.
My wife, Allison, she was not exaggerating. We have someone who works in our office that's extremely passionate about your brand. Yes. She lights up when we talk about that we're having this interview or that you're coming to the state.
Well, and so I want to jump back on one of the questions that Bobby just asked, though. So you said the Mount Rushmore of the favorite beers, but I'm curious, the question that we've asked several other folks who've joined us is if you had to make a Mount Rushmore of people who have inspired and or should be etched into stone of the brewing industry, like who would those Mount Rushmore of the brewing world be?
Yeah.
Man, I feel like I would say when our dad started in 85, he'll say it publicly. He was really inspired by Jim Cook and what Jim was doing at the time. I would say he's still an icon. I love seeing him speak, and you learn something every time he opens his mouth. So I would say he's one person. You think about craft brewing. I've certainly never met Fritz Maytag, but I think that he was definitely a pioneer. Our second generation, David Yuengling opened up a steam brewery in Richmond, Virginia back in the 1800s. And it didn't last very long, but I've always been intrigued by what Fritz Maytag did.
What's fun is that in these conversations, I believe the Yuengling family has been brought up. So this is exciting.
Was there a fourth one? You got one more spot.
Oh, so sorry.
Jen, you have any?
Well, I guess I'm thinking kind of along the lines where you were going, Wendy, the pioneers back in the 70s and the 80s. And, you look at Ken Grossman as well, and just very different business models maybe where he's, he has his IPAs and his ales, such great beers. And then Jim Cook, who has really diversified his business into seltzers and teas and, but the two of them just pioneers of their time. It just, really paved the way for, in a sense, where we are today and where we've landed with our lager brand.
What's interesting is every time we've asked that question, Ken Grossman comes up. It's he's just iconic. He's of his time, and he seems to have brought it all together. But he only got there because you guys started it and kept it going from centuries ago.
All right. Well, we got anything else?
Do you guys know Maggie Skinner? I wanted to throw a name. She's a sales rep for you in Wisconsin. Yeah, she's a good friend of mine.
Oh yeah, we had beers together a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Cool. Anyway, she says hi. She's doing an event
Just
right now, so she can't be here. She was going to be on this side. We were going to do like a real time and remote thing with you guys.
Oh, that's awesome.
But she's good. Nice. She's good people. She was just doing Revolution Brewing, I think, before that. But yeah.
She joined us earlier this year, right as we were getting ready to open up the state.
Very cool.
Well, I just want to give another thank you for representing a family brand that just continues to go and innovating on the tradition of just such an iconic brand that is, I mean, literally, Decker's right. Like, you kind of are, in terms of the beer, the country, to be around for 200 years. So it's just an absolute honor to get to talk to y'all.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure being with you folks. Thank you for having us. Thank you for your support of our brands. We wouldn't be here without our dedicated employees and our loyal consumers all these years.
Absolutely. We appreciate you coming on. Our distributor, we share the same one. So I was going to say that they're very excited about you too.
That's awesome. Well, hopefully we'll be back out in the market sometime soon.
Very cool.
Yeah, they've done a great job with launch.
Well, you know how to reach us if you want to see your way around an intimidatingly small brewery.
Probably fits in
we would love that.
Compartment.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Respecting the Beer. The show is produced by David Kelso with music by Sarah Lynn Huss. Be sure to join the Facebook group to connect between episodes and support the show over on Patreon, where you can get uncut episodes, access to specially brewed beer, and more. Until next time, please remember to respect the beer.